Is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily with me, Mike Zakarian, as we continue to try to figure out what the heck Brad Stevens is doing this offseason and try to get a better feel for what this Celtics roster and organization is going to look like the next time they throw the ball into the air. But before we dive into today's video, do me a favor. If this is your first time here, it would mean the world to me if you hit the subscribe button and also hit the little notification bell so you know the next time we're dropping that sweet Celtics content. For those real ones that have been here since day one, we're almost hitting 1,000 subs. We've been absolutely cooking, and we've only been cooking because you've been cooking. And maybe I'm saying cooking a lot in the algorithm because the Bear just dropped its new season. So yes, chef. Speaking of chefs, let's talk some Brad Stevens, huh? The moves that have been made in just like 10 days, basically 10 or 12 days. The Celtics roster was about to be one of the most expensive in the league, almost $500 million, because 263 of it was just going to be in tax money. What? Since then, they've gotten rid of Drew Holiday, who we can't tell if he's excited to be in Portland or not, for Anthony Simons, right? An expiring contract. They also flipped Kristaps Porzingis for nothing. Sorry, Georges Niang. And then they went out there and did some drafting, right? So we've got Hugo from Real Madrid. We got Amari from the UK, both overseas and at the University of Kentucky in the second round. And we also got Max Sugar, which is probably not how you pronounce it, but I can't help it. And so the Celtics are in this weird spot right now where they still do need to cut a little bit of salary. So Bobby Manning, right? Bobby Mandog said the next Celtics date to watch is actually this weekend. J.D. Davison's team options due. And if we're talking about J.D. Davison, that's how much the Celtics are worried about money right now. Is they're like, the guy in the G League that comes up for 2 weeks every year? What's he going to do with his money? But his team option is due. If they decline it, the Celtics would drop below the third tax bracket, okay? So that would bring the tax hit all the way down to $43 million. I just told you 10 days ago it was going to be $200+ million. We're already down to under $43 million, and that means there's still some more moves to be made because they're not done. But all of this money movement around, right? When we're going to talk about Anthony Simons here in a second, but all this money moving around has opened the door for Luke Cornett and our guy, Big Al, to return to the Celtics team. And I got to tell you, if we're not going to field a competitive team this year, and I don't mean we're not going to be a lottery team unless Jalen gets hurt or if the Celtics go out of their way to lose games, which that's something we should just take a second to go down this path with me, all right? I don't want them to tank, even though this upcoming draft class is one of the spicier drafts. I know we just got done with the 2025, but if you just Google the 2026 one, how about the Boozer kids? Cam Boozer, right? He's supposed to be a top projected pick. Anyways, that draft class is supposed to be spicy. But can you imagine Brad Stevens calling up Joe Mazzulla and being like, hey, I need you to lose games on purpose? Joe's head would explode. Can you imagine him trying to tank? He is a nutcase. I say that lovingly, but a nutcase. And now and just maniacal about winning. And now you're going to tell him he's going to lose on purpose? I don't think that would go well. Anyways, if we're going to put together this roster, that's probably going to win. They're going to be like a little bit above 500, right? I want it to be at least guys that I like. So please, bring back Luke Cornett, bring back Al Horford. I do not want to see Al's career end with him on another team. I know the New York Knicks have been sniffing around a little bit, trying to get Al over there because he would make a ton of sense. Al being like the backup big for a team trying to win a championships makes the most sense. And I will say, Al, listen, I know you watch every single episode. If that is what you want, if you want like one more, like you're like, I'm thinking about retiring, but I would like to do one. If I'm going to play again, I want to compete for a championship. I will not have any hate in my heart. You can go play for the Knicks or wherever you want, but I would prefer you to finish your career in green. Now, Luke Cornett, on the other hand, was our best big in the postseason, which is both a compliment to Luke and an indictment to the rest of our roster, which is why it was kind of confusing the Celtics weren't taking more bigs in the draft. But anyways, I don't want to see Luke Cornett on another team for one reason specifically. He's very funny, and I think I'd be pretty upset seeing his comedic bits on the internet with him not being a Celtic. I think it would piss me off. So I'm very open to these moves being made to bring these bigs back. I think they're a big part of this Celtics organization. And again, if we're not going to be this uber competitive team, let's lift. I don't know, Uber Lyft. If they're not going to be an uber competitive team, I want to make sure we at least like these guys, right? So we went over the money a little bit. There are still about 10 to 12 million dollars I think they're trying to shed. There's a couple of different rosters or a couple of different moves that could be made to get them under. Now, they've already gotten to a good space that if they decide they want to run this out and pay a little bit of a tax, they could. But I imagine if you were going to be a team that is probably a first, second round exit at best, you're not trying to spend a ton of money on that. You do not want to be paying crazy tax dollars, especially if it's your first year owning the team, for a team that's going to get bounced, kind of like what we saw this past season. Here are the options. So we've got Simons and we've got Hauser. I would bet that both of them are probably gone. And I got myself pretty excited about Anthony Simons, right? Expiring contract, 27.7 million, I believe it is, or 30 million, something like that. We mentioned he's like a career 39% three-point shooter, and on volume too, when he had to be like the main creator, taking like 8 or 9 three-pointers a game on the Portland Trailblazers. Now you bring him into this Boston offense where you have Peyton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, everybody stretching the floor. Those threes are going to come and look a lot easier, right? So I do like that idea of him being here. However, if it's truly just them trying to get under the tax, it makes sense for them to move off of Simon. So we've already covered all the potential Sammy deals, right? They're all out there. I think what's intriguing about Sam Hauser, Simons as well. Sam Hauser's a little bit cheaper and essentially does the same thing, minus the playmaking. Maybe a little bit of a better defender than Simons, probably a better three-point shooter than Simons. Not the same playmaker, right? But we already went over Hauser. Simons, on the other hand, I feel like there's 3 different paths forward for them, right? I think one of them is way more likely than the other two. But the first one is, let's say they just trade for some young developmental players, right? So you get a very cheap contract of a guy on a rookie deal. Say like Orlando, we want some more shooting. You can have Jet Howard. Somebody who hasn't really performed up to the lottery pick that he was. Tristan da Silva is another name. However, he was a little bit more active than, or a little bit more impactful than the rest of the core, I'm sorry, a little bit more impactful than Jed Howard. And then they also have Anthony Black. However, I think he's their most coveted one, so I don't see Anthony Black happening. But you think about a team like Orlando who'd be like, okay, we are trying to win now, clearly. We traded 75 first-round picks for Desmond Bane. We see that the Eastern Conference is wide open. Let's get some more shooting in. Another team like the Houston Rockets, we know they still have deals to be made. We were talking about Jaylen Brown's big package. Pause with me. We're talking about a big trade that could happen between Houston and Jaylen Brown, which, again, I don't think is going to happen. But if you pare that down and Houston's like, Cam Whitmore for Sam Hauser, here you go. I don't know financially if that actually works, but you know what I'm saying, where it's like one of these younger guys on a good team who we know is not going to get a lot of run because Houston is trying to win a chip right now. They don't have time to develop these guys. So that's one option. The second option is some expiring low salary contracts. And let me just tell you right now, right off the bat, this will feel like you're throwing up. None of these are going to make you very excited. And I apologize to the guys that I'm about to name. Dougie McBuckets, Mr. McDermott, right? If you're not going to draft Ryan Cockbrenner out of Creighton, what if we get a Creighton alum in Doug McBuckets, Dougie McDermott? He's bounced around the entire league, right? He's played on the Spurs, the Pacers, the Kings, all these different teams. Can shoot the three. But honestly, that's not why we're trading for him. We're not getting Doug McDermott to be like, hey, maybe we can unlock Doug. No, this is a financial situation. Anytime you're trading for anybody named Doug, it's for financial purposes. It's not to get an athlete on the court. Sorry, Doug. The one that's a little bit more intriguing is Royce O'Neal from the Phoenix Suns. Royce is like a valuable guy to a team trying to win games right now. Not a valuable guy to a team that's like middling. And that's what the Phoenix Suns are. And honestly, middling that's the highest anyone's spoken of the Phoenix Suns in a while. But Royce, good 3-and-D guy, wily vet. We've seen him play in playoff series, right? Was he on the Suns when they went on that finals run? I don't know. We know he's bounced around the league quite a bit. I don't think he was on that Suns team. Anyways, Royce O'Neal would be a decent fit, I think. But the more likely is Simons going to a team. Again, Orlando Magic could be one of those teams, although their salary is going to start to get up there, and $30 million is a lot, even though it's expiring. But a team that would just give up some picks, some first and second round picks, some future assets, right? That would allow some cap flexibility. And I think that is probably the most likely one, which again, it is boring. But future assets for a draft class that's coming up, that's pretty sexy. I don't know. So I do think that is kind of the what we are going to see because the Celtics are so focused on regaining that flexibility and avoiding the luxury tax. So their trade targets are likely to be players that are on expiring or lower salary contracts, draft picks, or young developmental guys that don't cost that much. But I do think it's probably most likely going to be those cheaper guys, right? Or draft picks, excuse me. So again, it's not fun. We're not doing fun stuff right now. I want our team to be good, man. Let's do the last thing here. Let's get to some of your comments from previous videos. And listen, even the mean stuff, like somebody saying I breathe too much when I talk, that's something I'll talk to my therapist about now. That's all I'm going to be thinking about when I'm talking. And I'm like, breathing in every time. But I'll take all the comments. Keep them coming. The engagement is fun. And I really do appreciate other people getting involved in what we're doing. And that's what builds community, okay? So we're going to cover two different ones. Our guy, Soldier Medic 81. Thank you for your service, sir. He said a combined 0 minutes for our draft picks next year. Thanks, Joe. We did it. And now I can only think of the meme. Joe, we did it. Okay, two things. One, if that is true, that means we wanted to put them into the G League so we can put them on two-way contracts. Obviously, we're not doing that with Hugo, the first-round pick, but with Amari and Max, there is a real chance they're on two-way contracts. That saves a ton of money, gets them off the books. Okay, let's break it down a little bit more, though. They might get run. We look at who the Celtics bench looks like right now. We're going to see a lot more Baylor Shireman, who I am excited about. I do think Baylor Shireman could have some serious impact here for the Celtics next season, and I liked the minutes he got down the stretch. And I think, again, Summer League right around the corner, July 10th to the 14th, your boy's going to be out there. You know, we'll get a better feel for him getting more involved because he's going to play massive minutes. Jordan Walsh, we've seen him do that quite a bit, and he hasn't done much yet, Jordan. Jordan? I need you, Jordan. JD Davison, we mentioned him, right? But anyways, those guys are going to get more opportunities because that's the bench right now. It's going to be a thinned out crew. So I could see Hugo getting some run, especially when we get to the second half of the season. But to your point, Soldier Medic, yeah, it is a little bit underwhelming. And I saw a lot of people in the comments too kind of banging on Brad's draft experience and like how he's been as a drafter. I think people have and I'm not saying he's been all slam dunks or anything, but I think people have unrealistic expectations when they're drafting at the very end of the first round. That's hard. That shit's hard. Would I like him to hit on his own Desmond Bain or Nikola Jokic? Yeah, for sure. But I think that's the exception. It's not the rule. All right. Otherwise, we'd be talking about second round picks all the time, and we don't. But so I do think they're going to get a little bit of run. But you're right. Again, much of this Celtics offseason, not super sexy. The last one, Ice Crash. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. Ice Crash Daddy? Ice Crash Daddy? Says Jaylen Brown for Jaren Jackson Jr. Who says no? Though, this would be a more interesting conversation if Jaren Jackson Jr. had already been signed and extended, I think, because Triple J is coming up on an extension. I think this is his last year, so he'd be a free agent next year, I believe, or maybe it's 2 years. He did miss out on All-NBA this past season, which was actually pretty controversial. He felt like a lock for third-team All-NBA, and then the Memphis Grizzlies fell apart. Ja Morant came back. They were doing just straight pick and roll, and Triple J's offense was like non-existent. So he's not going to get that big deal. He's not going to get and that was what happened to the Oklahoma City Thunder. J-Dub made the All-NBA team. Now he's got a super, super duper max, and Triple J did not get that. So I think it's a little bit harder to make those salaries work. But that is intriguing. I'm a huge Jaren Jackson Jr. fan. I think he leaves a little bit to be desired on the glass. Not really the best rebounder. Really good three-point shooter. Can create a little bit of offense and perennial defensive player of the year candidate. I do think that's intriguing, and I'd be open to it, but I don't know if Memphis would do it. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I feel like that Jaren Jackson Jr. has left a bad taste in some people's mouth, but I'm into it. Jaylen Brown for Jaren Jackson Jr. I'm at least taking the call. Shout out Joe Dumars, who made one of the worst trades that we've seen in a long time. But anyways, hit me up in the comments. What do we think about JB and Triple J? But that's going to do it for me. Appreciate everybody hanging in. We'll be back next week. We're close to the month of July. That's when stuff starts heating up on the free agency side of things. And then we maybe start getting some weird Joe Mazzulla quotes. And that's honestly what I live for. Hit the subscribe on the way out. We'll see you next time.